Hello, welcome back to Empower Your Menopause, the show where we cut through the fluff, give you practical, science-based steps to feel better in midlife. I'm Julie here with James from Fabulous Beyond 40. Thank you for joining us today. Today we are going to take on creatine. It's probably one of the most misunderstood supplements in the room. There's so much social media hype about it at the moment, especially when it comes to high doses. So we thought we'd talk about it here and talk about why it can be a smart and simple add-on for women over 40, as well as important things like what to avoid and what to look out for. So over the next half hour, we're going to cover things like what is it, why is it useful during and after menopause, how to take it safely, very important, and what to expect when you do take it. So we'll also tackle some of the bigger worries, things like kidneys, weight gain, bulking, and that sort of thing, and finish with a quick Q&A. So we're going to keep this all in plain English so that you have some good takeaways when we're done today. So James, why don't we start with what creatine is and what is it supposed to do?
Okay, so I'll try and keep this in plain English as much as possible then. But let's start first of all with what it's actually not. So a lot of people tend to confuse for some reason creatine with either a hormone or a steroid, and it's not, despite the fact that it's used by some people in the gym to help them bulk up. So it's not that, and we'll dig into what it's not in more depth a little bit later on. But it's really a natural compound that your body already makes from three different amino acids. Now, amino acids are the building blocks of protein, the micro different types of protein. So creatine is made from three of those. It's made from three called arginine, glycine, and methionine. And you can also get it in some foods like meat and fish. So your body makes it, and you can get it from some foods as well. You can't get it in a vegetarian form. That's one thing to say. So your body makes it in the liver, the kidneys, and your brain, and then it's carried by the blood to your muscles and your brain, which is where it's stored and where it's used from. So it's stored primarily in the muscles. Most of it, around 95%, that's running around the body at any one time, is stored in your muscles, and then about 5% in the brain. So it was first discovered in a lab. I mean, it existed before that, obviously, but first discovered by mankind and recognised in the lab. So around the 1800s, late 1800s. And over the years, we've found that it does a number of things that can be beneficial to the body. So the main thing that it does, its day job, if you like, despite the social media explosion now that tells that it does all different things, is it helps your cells recycle energy quickly. Now, most people will probably be aware with two terms about how the body makes energy. One is the aerobic system, which primarily burns fat, and the other is an anaerobic system, which primarily burns carbohydrates. They help the body produce energy, and they're pretty efficient, but the aerobic particularly is quite slow at doing that, so you're limited by how hard you can work. And then the anaerobic system burns energy and produces energy a bit quicker, but only for shorter periods, around 3-4 minutes, somewhere like that. Now, there's a subset of the anaerobic system, and I'll try and keep this in plain English, which is called the ATP-PC system. So this energizes our muscles for really short, fast actions, but it's limited in its capacity, so you can't do it for very long. You can only do it for somewhere around between 10 and 20 seconds, somewhere around there. So creatine is part of the PC in that ATP-PC system that I talked about. It gets converted into a chemical called phosphocreatine, that's PC, and it helps us create the ATP, which is the energy source that is burnt by our muscles to keep them going. But as I said, 10 seconds maximum, which is why creatine's main use is to help us when we want to do short, sharp, strenuous efforts of work. So that could be in the gym. If you're in the gym, it might be when you're trying to crunch some heavy weights out. You're doing your squats, so you're trying to get 10, 15 in one set. That's going to take you about 20 seconds. That is where creatine is kicking in to help that. Same out in the on the track. If you're doing short, sharp sprints, once you get up to 800, 1500 meters, those longer distances, it's not really helping there unless you're looking at a sprint finish at the end of one of those races. And it can also help with things like jumping as well. So, like high jump, long jump, all those kind of things. So when you want short, sharp energy, creatine is kind of the thing that you want to be kicking in. Now, aside from that, it helps with a couple of other things as well. So first of all, cell hydration, keeping your cells nice and plump and ready to go, and some signaling as well between cells. And that is where the increasing research is showing lots of promise because it seems to be helping people with cognitive challenges and memory challenges. Hello, where do they tend to come in? We know where they come in. They come in menopause, right? So
Yes.
that's kind of what we're looking at then. So sort of like short, sharp efforts in the gym. That's where it's mainly used, but also increasingly cognitive stuff as well.
Yeah. I'm taking it now, and I'll tell my story later, but listeners might be asking, so if we can make it in our body and we can get it from the food we eat, why might we need to supplement it?
Okay, so that's a really, really good question. So as we get older, our bodies tend to produce less of it naturally. Now, women tend to generally, even when they're younger, produce less than men do as well. Part of that is likely down to diet because, I'm going to gender stereotype a little bit here for science purposes, but, men tend to be big meat eaters. Women might eat less or smaller portions of that because size is smaller as well. And also, oftentimes as well, women tend to be physically smaller than men as well. So on the whole, obviously there will be exceptions to this. I'm not trying to turn it into a gender issue, but on the whole, men tend to produce more of it naturally anyway. But then all of us, as a species, tend to produce less of it when we get older. So you're producing less anyway, so supplementing can help there. The other thing is the levels in food are actually quite low, and so the most researched, the most recommended dose is somewhere between 3 and 5 grams a day. And we'll get deeper into dosage as we go down. But to give you an idea of how much you'd need to eat in food to get that 3 to 5 grams of creatine a day, it's massive. You're talking about 1.2 kilograms of steak. That's around 2.5 pounds for any of our American listeners. So I don't know about you, but if I was eating 1.2 kilograms of steak, I would probably hardly be able to get out of the bathroom to get into the gym for creatine to work. And that is why, getting a small daily top up that can help you squeeze out those couple of extra reps, recover your top gear if you're between sets. So when you do that rest period between a set of lifting weights in the gym, but also to feel steadier across a workout. And then that brain thing as well, particularly handy when sleep and stress aren't perfect. Again, hello, women in menopause. Then
Mhm.
that small daily top up can help you with all of those things. The good news is, of course, that creatine, because it has been around for ages, it's probably one of the most researched, safest sports focused supplements that you can get out there. I think the last time I looked, something like 2,200 studies. That is huge when it comes to
Yeah.
supplementation, right? An absolutely phenomenal amount of research has gone into that. And so when people say it's safe, we'll dig into safety a bit further, but we can kind of reliably say that we've seen lots and lots of trials on this. It's also relatively cheap to make, and again, we'll talk about safety and what to look for when it comes to them. But it's so cheap that unless you've got an absolute scam manufacturer, it's almost not worth them scrimping on quality. So it's one of those we tend to always say buy the best quality you can find and you can afford. With creatine, you can go perhaps a level down on that and still safely think that you're getting something that's pretty decent to have. So I think I have to start this by saying what creatine's not. Let's dive into myth busting. I think, Julie, I'm going to hand back to you. Let's talk
Mhm.
about some of the misconceptions about it because let's be truthful, right? There is a history of everybody thinking that it's a gym bro thing here, and I'm sure that you're of an age where you remember the '90s where that was the kind of image that it had. As am I. So why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, do I ever? As a matter of fact, it kept me from looking into taking it for quite some time because I had a bit of a fear around it. So I'm really glad to have that research and the information now to understand how good it is. So let's retire some of those myths right now. So first of all, like as James said, creatine is not a steroid. It's a completely different universe. Your body already makes creatine. Steroids are hormones. It's like comparing apples and spanners, or as we say in the States, apples and oranges. They have nothing to do with each other. The second thing I think this is really important is that it's not a magic pill. if you don't train, it's not going to do the heavy lifting for you, so to speak. So you can't take it, it's like people who join the gym in January and never go and somehow they didn't get fit, right? You can't take it and expect suddenly these nice lean strong muscles. You have to do the work. So you can think of it as that assistant that's going to help you make good habits that you're establishing work even better. Also, it's really, really not just for 20 something bodybuilders. That is all about branding, not biology. The whole bro label, if you will, bodybuilder, muscle guy label stuck because back in the 90s when it hit headlines, it was because heavy lifters, weightlifters, bodybuilders were and sprinters were using it to see explosive gains in their training. So you get all this locker room marketing. You see these guys with their veins popping and grunting and their sweaty muscles, and that, which is just silly. But the science, fortunately, behind all of that facade, the science was quietly accumulating and stacking up. Unfortunately, the branding didn't go with it. It stayed in that, shirtless gym muscle bound guy mode. So fast forward to now, it's one of the most researched, as James said, safest supplements in sports and exercise. And the conversation has moved well beyond the weight room. We're talking about healthy aging, functional strength, meaning the activities that allow you to stay strong enough to do things that you need to do on a daily basis. It helps with day-to-day energy, and it even helps with brain performance under stress. Um, and I can attest to this. So let's just say, the muscle heads, meatheads, gym bros, whatever you want to call them, they don't own biochemistry, right? Midlife women finally get a seat at this table. So let's just have a couple of reality checks for this. You aren't going to bulk up by accident. That takes some very serious training and probably some medical assistance as well. We'll just leave it at that. What you're more likely to notice with creatine is that you'll get better quality reps, you'll get steadier training, which are good things. There may be a small uptick on the scale when you start taking it, but that is not from fat gain. That is from water inside the muscle, which is actually a good thing. We want our cells and tissues to be properly hydrated, but it's not fat gain. That's not how the system works. The best results are going to come when you pair creatine with 2 or 3 strength sessions a week. And of course, all of the sensible day-to-day fundamentals that we talk about all the time, right? Getting restful sleep, having enough protein in your diet, managing your stress. Yes. Have we ever done an episode where we didn't talk about stress?
I don't think we have.
Yeah. So if you've written off creatine before because of this whole aura around it, you can park that for now. It's a really simple tool that can go a long way to helping you feel stronger, more stable, and a little bit clearer upstairs, especially in the chaos of midlife. So, James, let's zoom in on why those small training wins matter so much, especially during and after menopause.
Yeah, absolutely. So the big picture is midlife shifts everything. We know that, right? So estrogen
Yeah.
drops, your recovery feels slower, your sleep gets a bit more messed up. We tend to lose muscle mass faster than we can build it. Now, that's a lousy combo for your strength, your balance, your confidence. Hello, menopause, right? So all the things that we talk about so often, right? So as Julie said before, creatine's not going to do the work for you, but it does help you get more out of the work that you might already be doing. So, as I kind of said before, muscle and everyday function, think of it as a tiny amplifier for any strength sessions that you might do in the gym. And please, if you hear that word strength sessions and you're already feeling a little bit of a sort of like thing of horror running through you, please go back and watch or listen to any of our episodes where we talk about why strength training is super, super important at this time of life. So when you go into the gym, it's going to help you recycle that quick energy better So you can do a few more good reps whether you're squatting, whether you're doing push-ups, or it's going to help you in your recovery between different sets, or it's going to help you keep your form better within a set. So all those small little things, they compound, right? You're actually building layers on top of each other. So we're talking about getting up out of chairs without having to use your arms or grunt. We're talking about carrying shopping without wobbling. We're talking about when you're on a plane being able to easily lift your hold luggage your carry-on luggage into the overhead locker. We're talking about feeling more stable on the stairs. We're not talking fireworks. We're talking about consistency that stacks up. So that's really, really important. It's really good when you're training for getting your top gear back, right? So one of the things that tends to happen is we go into the gym, we do certain exercise, we do set 1, then we do set 2, then set 3 becomes really, really hard because we're tired. So creatine will help you build up that energy quicker so your latter sets don't fall apart. Now, over the weeks, that of course means more consistent training, more productive training, without you actually having to do more. So I just parenthesis here, what's not to like so far when it comes to this? When it comes to some of the specific challenges of menopausal women, then we know that at this time of life, our bones are more under stress when it comes to the challenges that are provided by the fall in estrogen. So creatine isn't going to miraculously wave a wand and give you stronger bones, but because it is supporting better training quality, stronger muscles, they're all going to load your skeleton more, and they're going to help with your bones because your muscles will be able to help load the bones in a way that they like to be loaded. So you're talking about stronger hips, you're talking about a stronger spine, you're talking about fewer wobbles, real world support, if you like, even if the DEXA scan that people do when it comes to bone density, even if that doesn't actually show massive gains. Then we've got our old favourites as well, things like brain fog, mood, mental energy, right? All those kind of things that we talk about. So your brain uses creatine. Remember, 5% of it is stored in there, and it actually is being shown increasingly. So most of the research is heading this way now to help your brain, particularly when your brain's under pressure, poor sleep, high stress, heavy cognitive load. Hello, when do those 3 things come around? During the menopause transition. It's literally midlife in a sentence, right? So don't expect to start taking creatine and see huge benefits in this area. We're talking modest, right? We're talking that your brain might snap a little bit quicker. You might have fewer of those where do I find my key moments and things like that. It's not a miracle, it's a nudge, but it is promising. And the more research that's done, the more we're going to find out about this kind of thing. So who kind of feels all this the most? If you're already in the gym lifting 2 or 3 times a week, you're probably going to feel a bit of a benefit from it. If you're not already lifting 2 and 3 times a week, go and start lifting 2 or 3 times a week and take creatine, and you'll get a double benefit from it. Okay, if you're vegetarian, vegan, creatine is going to help because you've not got as much meat and fish intake. I know I said there's not a lot in foods, but there is some. And if you're juggling stress, broken sleep, and all that kind of stuff, you might feel the difference as well. But if you're already very well rested, if you're already low on stress, if you're already training like clockwork, I actually don't know anybody who's doing all those kind of things anyway. Let's pretend that there are some people out there who are actually breaking these rules and actually doing those kind of things. The changes might feel a little bit subtler, obviously. Still worthwhile, but dramatic. So I think, as you said earlier, it's not a magic pill, right? Let's not see it as some kind of panacea that can help with everything. But it is going to help you feel steadier, both in your body and mentally. It's going to help your muscles feel stronger. It might give you a calmer nervous system. And of course, if you stack it with sleep, better protein, basic stress hygiene, that's where you're going to start to feel powerful again. Okay, so that's why you should be taking it. Hopefully by now we've kind of convinced you about why you should be taking it. A couple of things we should talk about. First of all, I'm going to hand back to you, Julie, to talk a little bit about safety, because I know that people are concerned generally about creatine and generally about supplements, and I think it's a good one to take. And then I'll talk a little bit about dosing before we start to round up. So, What should women know before they start taking it? Julie, give us a lowdown.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. So let's start with the biggest worry that we see and hear about are the kidneys. The good news is that at normal doses in healthy adults, the research doesn't show kidney damage when you're taking creatine. And I think there's some confusion because creatinine is the byproduct, if you will, the exhaust kind of that your body makes when it uses creatine. And because labs often look at the creatinine numbers as a kidney marker, if you start taking creatine, your numbers can look a little bit higher, even though your kidneys are fine. So, like any other supplement, tell your clinician that you're taking creatine so they can factor that into the lab results and interpret everything in context. And that's true of any supplement you take. Your doctor should always know. I go with a list, certainly to my doctor, because they need to have that information. But especially with creatine, if you're worried about kidney numbers. Weight gain, obviously women at this stage of life, weight gain's like, I don't want anything that's going to make the scale go up. Technically, any weight fluctuations you see are probably temporary. And as we said before, it's about the water that's inside the muscle cell, which is part of how creatine works. So it's not fat. In most women, this is usually quite modest. Many clients don't even notice it in the way their clothes fit. But what they do notice is that when they're training, again, their training improves and becomes steadier. If you notice, some people say they have some digestive upset from it. If big doses bother your gut, then you could split the dose or be sure to take it with food. Those are simple fixes that usually resolve that issue. Some people, for some reason, think you need to water load when you're taking creatine. That's not true. Just drink like a normal person, whatever your recommended water intake is. But do hydrate. Um, don't worry about it storing water inside your muscle cells. That's a good thing, as we said. So don't drink less water, but make sure you're well hydrated. And there's also a myth out there that caffeine cancels creatine. That isn't necessarily true. There's still emerging research on that. It may not be quite as effective if you're taking it with caffeine, but consistency in taking it matters far more. It doesn't cancel it out by any means. Um, Now, the caveat to all of this is please do check with your doctor, your clinician. If you're taking certain medications or you have certain medical conditions, that's true again of absolutely any supplement, but especially with creatine. If you've been diagnosed with kidney disease or you have a history of kidney issues, for sure, talk to your doctor about it. If you have uncontrolled high blood pressure, that's something else you should definitely get clearance for. And if you're taking diuretic medications or any other medications that affect your kidneys, um, having a quick chat with the prescribing doctor will take care of that for you. And we always say quality matters. This is very true. And again, you're not going to be paying massive amounts of money for good quality creatine, but stick to creatine monohydrate. You'll notice that on the label. And the best option is to look for products that have been third-party tested. So they have a seal from NSF or Informed Choice, or it says Crea Pure on the label. Those are indications that the product is standardized and of good quality. Keeping the powder dry is important because it likes water. Micronized basically just means it's smaller and it mixes better with liquids. Again, if you've got blood work coming up, note your creatine use on the form, the intake form, or make sure to tell the person who's doing the blood draw. It's going to save you a lot of back and forth later. There are occasionally some side effects, some more serious side effects, but they're very rare. If you notice any unusual swelling, persistent GI upset, you just can't seem to stomach it, or anything else that feels off, stop taking it and check in with your clinician. I mean, the good thing is this isn't like a fat soluble vitamin that's going to just stay resident in your tissues. You're going to cycle through it. So stopping usually will help. Bottom line is, again, for healthy adults at normal doses, because we don't need to follow that influencer who's telling you to massively dose creatine. That's not sensible. But at normal doses, it has a very strong safety record. So be consistent with it in order to see the best results. Choose a reputable product. And again, tell your doctor, clinician that you are taking it, especially when you're thinking about that creatinine number. Okay, so we've ticked off all the safety boxes, James. Let's show everybody how to take it, because that's probably one of the biggest questions now that we've convinced them.
Yeah, sure. So the most researched dosages are somewhere between 3 grams and 5 grams of creatine monohydrate once daily. Towards 3 grams if you're smaller in frame, towards 5 grams if you're bigger. You can take it any time of day, as you said before. If you have it with food, it can feel gentler. So there are kind of two protocols, really. One is to just start off with that 3 to 5 grams a day and have it for about a month. And by the end of the month, that is when your muscle and your brain levels will be nicely topped up. And then you do need to take it daily after that. Some people prefer to do what's called like a preloading phase and have a couple of weeks where they go higher on the dose, maybe 20, 25 grams for a couple of weeks, and then drop to that 5 grams. What happens there is that you tend to beat your top creatine levels a couple of weeks earlier. Does that make a massive difference? Probably not. And in fact, when you go up to those higher levels, that is when I, at least anecdotally, tend to see more tummy troubles in people if they go too high too soon. So the easiest thing to do is just take, somewhere between 3 and 5 grams a day. Most of the packs have got a little spoon in them. Otherwise, like a flat teaspoonful is about the right amount. Take it for around 4 weeks before you start to judge it. You do get some better absorption. This is really getting into nitty gritty now, but if you want to sort of like try and make it really, really work for you, having it alongside some simple carbs can help. Why is that? Because it triggers insulin, and that helps shunt the creatine around the bloodstream quicker. So we're talking like a glass of fruit juice, a small sports drink, having it with a meal that's got some carbs in it, maybe a sandwich or something like that. You don't need to neck 50 grams of sugar before you take it. Pair it with some sensible carbs that you'd already be doing, and look out for the sugar levels as well. Just because we're saying to have a few carbs to help your creatine along, it's not carte blanche to then go and bust your sugar levels. When it comes
No
to
fast food milkshakes.
no, absolutely no. I mean, have one occasionally if it's what you like having, but let's not make it a daily ritual as part of our creatine routine. The whole loading thing, for most women, I don't think it's necessary. There is some sort of like really, again, getting into the nitty gritty stuff about timing it, to time going into the gym at a specific time and stuff like that. For me, it's so much faff, I wouldn't really bother with it. If you're a competitive lifter and you want to get into the gym and do that kind of stuff, ask us and we can help you tailor a routine if needed. Now, where do those higher doses come from? So there are lots of people right now, influencers on the internet, talking about higher doses of creatine daily and continually. And to be honest with you, there's some fledgling research into this, but the science is not absolute on it. So if you want to try doing some what they call biohacking, that is where you're actually trying to alter your blood chemistry and all that kind of stuff, and you want to try a dose of 20 to 25 grams long terms, I don't think there's anybody growing a third arm from those kind of levels yet. We're not seeing anything, but it can give you those tummy troubles if you have too much too soon. So if you do want to try at those high levels, increase gradually or stick to the recommended dose. So I'm not calling out people who are trying to push the envelope there. That's kind of how science moves on, by people experimenting and trying things. But right now, for me, there's not enough research just yet to show that those higher levels help. Although I'm hopeful that there will be some level in future, because it is showing some promising results, both anecdotally and in a couple of early trials. So hopefully that covers sort of like dosage, 3 to 5 grams a day. Take it basically for the rest of your life. And creatine tends not to go off. So And when you buy a sachet of it, if it's 500 grams or a kilo, I mean, imagine it's going to last you for months and months and months if you're only taking 5 grams a day, right? So it's a small
Yeah.
investment for something that can have small but good, consistent gains. So I would definitely recommend it for most people. I think we talked about doing a quick Q&A, didn't we, Julie? So do you just want to fire some quick questions at me and see if we can wrap through some of those?
Yeah, this is as good as a recap. So who tends to feel it the most? Who tends to feel the benefits?
Okay, when we're talking to midlife women, I think if you're doing 2-3 strength sessions a week, then you're going to feel it really good. Vegetarians, vegans definitely could use it because you're going to have a lower baseline anyway because you're not getting any from food at all. Anybody who's juggling stress, choppy sleep, it tends to help cognitive performance. Those early trials are showing cognitive performance is helping people whose brain is under stress in some way. And I would guess that that is most women listening to this podcast, right? So yeah, definitely
100%.
you should be able to feel it in both your brain power and your muscle power in the gym. Yeah.
Well, speaking of feeling it, what does it feel like then?
So we're talking about, if you're going into the gym, couple of shaky reps might feel more like 4 solid ones. You'll definitely feel more recovery between sets. If you're a runner and you want to do sprint finishes and things like that, you might have a little bit more snap. There's almost no impact on steady state endurance. So the ultra marathon stuff that I kind of do as my sport, creatine helps me in the gym in prep for that, but it doesn't help me in those actual race conditions. So it's really sort of like short burst help rather than the marathon hack. And as we've talked about, a lot of promising research into some of the cognitive challenges that we feel. Yeah.
Yeah, anecdotally, I can say that it's helped me a lot with brain fog lately. So
Yeah.
I've,
There you go.
yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Um, will I get bulky? This is like the one of the top questions
Yeah.
from women.
Okay. Simple answer: no. But again, slightly better quality training, a nudge to lean muscle strength and weight as a result of that. You're not going to get a size surge, and it's always better if you're pairing it with other healthy habits. As is everything, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, 100%. And does coffee cancel it? There's a lot of people out there saying.
No. Oh well. No. Lab settings, evidence is a little bit mixed, but in real life, I don't see it happening at all. And I think really, just be consistent with taking your creatine, enjoy your morning coffee. Yeah, there's nothing really showing anything that is making me scream, no, don't take it with coffee. Yeah, I think it's absolutely
Okay.
fine.
And lastly, how long until I notice changes?
Oh yeah, 3-4 weeks. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, if you've got some stomach grumbles, take it or dose with food, or as I said before, a bit of orange juice, some a small carb drink or something like that can just help it go around. But after 4 weeks, you should start seeing some daily benefits. It is the kind of thing, I'm afraid, that if you start seeing some benefits, you're kind of locked in for life. Really, that doesn't mean that you can never stop taking it. If you want to continue seeing the benefits and you want to keep doing that, this is not a take for 3 months and give up supplement. It's something you've got to do
Mhm.
regularly and consistently if you want to see the benefits of it.
Yeah. And it's so easy to do because
Yeah,
it's a tiny scoop and you can mix it in with anything.
yeah, pretty
Um,
much anything. Yeah, yeah, but
yeah.
yeah,
Days I don't have coffee, I stick it in some yogurt or something and it works just fine.
yeah,
Um, so
yeah. My
yeah.
wife,
So
my
just
wife, my wife takes it in a sort of like really short glass of orange juice, just like an inch or two
okay.
in the bottom of a glass. That's how she has hers. Yeah,
Excellent.
I tend to just mix it in with a smoothie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Easy peasy.
yeah.
Get your protein in at the same time.
Yeah, chuck it
And
all
your
in together.
carbs.
Yeah, it's a really simple
Yeah.
way of doing it.
Love it. All right, so let's just have a quick recap then. So as we've covered today, creatine is just a nice little assist that will compound over time. It's safe at normal doses for healthy adults. It really does pair beautifully with strength training and may give you a modest lift on foggier days. I certainly have noticed that personally. It's not magic, but it can be very meaningful when you layer it onto your other solid habits that you are building alongside of us. So start simply, just 3 to 5 grams a day, couple strength sessions per week. Stay consistent. That's really the key, and it'll help you stack up those wins. So that's what we've got for you today. Before we sign off, we'd just like to say if this helped, we have some special Black Friday offers coming up, which we're very excited about. They're going to stay live until December 2nd, so we're kind of cheating by starting a bit early. But we have limited spots available, which is why we're telling you now. We are offering a 13-pound discount on our menopause impact assessment. This is a targeted plan. You'll walk away with some really good steps to take that will help you feel better fast. There are only 20 of these available. Normally, this is a 23-pound session, so you can get it for just 10. We're offering 200 pounds off of our Nail Your Nutrition plan, which is a very customized, personalized nutrition plan that also includes coaching to help you learn how to implement it. And that is targeted for women 40 and above. And then for those of you from corporate background, we have an amazing Menopause at Work series that we do. We've just wrapped one of those up and had amazing feedback from our participants. It's a 4-week workplace series. We're offering 20% off of that for new clients, and we would love to put you to add you to our roster. So we'll have links in the show notes for all of those special offers. And I think let's wrap it there. So we've been Julie and James from Fabulous Beyond 40, and we're here to say stay strong and stay fabulous. We'll see you next week.